to anybody watching this, we are not broadcasting live, but we are being recorded and it'll be posted online. Just having computer difficulties live streamed, but as a reminder to anybody watching, the doors are open and the meetings are open for anyone to come and attend in person. With that, we will just get right into the meeting. Turn it over to Trent.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. There was no snow. I'm glad to be here. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Trip. Yeah, it's great. And now we know you're in a somewhat of a big house that we were kind of did a double take on. So we'll find her a little faster next time. But Trent Grunmeyer Leader Services, pleased to be here. Ran into some of you at the convention and chatted with you a little bit, and was pleased to get Greg's email that you wanted to work with us. So it is a work session tonight. I hope, based on what Greg sent you, you see that we went to work for you right away and have some things that we can finalize hopefully tonight. You can direct us to continue to work for you, and we'll just hit the ground running here tonight. Dr. Kevin Feeney with me here as well. We work probably about half the searches together in the state, so he'll probably finish a few of my sentences here tonight. And
correct a couple of things.
Yeah, or that. But we're pleased to be working with you, and I'll give him a chance to introduce himself as well.
Just a quick background because nobody really cares, but you'll discover my sense of humor is, my wife says, well, I won't tell you what she says. 38 years, she still keeps coming back, so that's a good thing. I was a superintendent for 8 years in 2 different districts. Retired from that 4 years ago from Interstate 35. And actually, one of your employees succeeded me and is still there. And anyway, prior to that, I have, 12 years as a high school principal at Waverly Shell Rock in Denver up in Northeast Iowa. Taught at Denver for 10 years. Then I taught at Wartburg for 9 years, and then was superintendent in 2 different places. So all of that, if you do the math, just adds up to, I'm kind of old, but been around the block and thoroughly enjoy doing this work, and thank you for having us.
Okay. So what we plan on doing tonight is kind of walking through. I know I talked to some of the board members at the convention, but I know it's also fairly quick towards the end of the convention and stuff. So I thought it would make the most sense tonight to kind of walk through process that we recommend. We understand that you know your district and community better than us. We're not going to try to pretend that we know Burlington. What we know is recruiting and best practices in the hiring process. And we're going to defer to you on a lot of the best practices in knowing your area. And when we kind of respect that, then, you know, we get the right person in the end. So I thought best in the work session to walk through the hiring process tonight with you, answering questions along the way. And then since it's a work session, we have some initial questions that we want to begin to have tonight around survey, hiring timeline, salary and benefits overview, and job posting that I handed out there as a draft too. So actually getting some of those things done as they make sense tonight, and then leaving, making sure your questions are answered in case somebody on the street says, where are we at in the process, or what's this going to look like? We want you to know, keep two steps ahead, quite honestly, of the process. So
Just as I mentioned, we do have one board member on the phone.
gotcha.
So just,
And please have them speak up if there's anything that they want me to share or email, I can do that as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to get started, and then again, it's a work session, so please interrupt me if there's a question at hand, and we'll keep going. I won't spend a whole lot of time on our stats, so you can see them on the screen if you want. Feel pretty good. Maybe more importantly, we had a successful interim hire down at Keokuk just south that they just retained in March, so that's one less we're competing with. He'll be there another year if you didn't know that. West Liberty was last year, Decora's again this year. Anyway, you can see some of those, and our first one of the year was actually Keystone AEA, which as you saw, they just hired Stan Rengans from Dubuque. They're hired, so we want to stay ahead of that if at all possible. So I want to talk through a few things, and I will tell you right up front, this is probably the hardest part of the meeting, is getting the hiring timeline kind of mapped out, because it means a lot of people got to orchestrate schedules. But the sooner we can get that out to people and in the survey and on your schedules, actually the less emails you'll get, because people will know here's the plan. Here's what we can expect the new superintendent announce. And obviously the advantage Pat gave you, letting you know early, is that you should have a nice, smooth succession plan. So I think that's a real advantage. What I penciled out for you can be very flexible. Obviously tomorrow's December 1st, so we're probably not getting it posted by tomorrow. But I think we can realistically get it posted by the weekend or next week, and have it posted through Christmas. Your sweet spot in candidates is leaving it open through Christmas. That's when you're gonna have your best pool, because that's when most of them have time to apply. And I could give you lots of examples. We just had Lisbon sitting right, down the road, not too far, sitting at 10 applicants, and over Thanksgiving break, they had 9 finish. I've been working on their apps submitted in the last week. So we see most applicants submit on Sunday nights.
We can see, where they are in the process so we kind of have a pretty good idea. Maybe it looks like you've got 10 applicants, but we know that there's another 15 that are working on it. So we'll let you know all of that as it unfolds.
Yeah. So I want to pause right here. And again, I'm telling you, this is probably the most difficult part of our meeting, but I think it makes the most sense to actually pencil out the timeline here. And we can work backward. If you say, Trent, we want to hire by mid-February, then we'll work backward from mid-February to, when we want to post it. But I would strongly encourage you to post it as soon as possible, within reason, through probably January 3rd or January 9th, to give, ample weekends to get the best pool. Have any time frame in mind?
No, I think
That sounds
those were very similar to what we had talked about internally of through Christmas break, and then a hire by, mid-February. So that's right at the exact same timeline.
Okay, that sounds good. So as we plan that out, we're gonna look at the job posting that we drafted, and again, it's just a draft, so we'll massage that tonight. If we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, it's reasonable we could have that posted by the weekend. I work with Lacey to get it posted on Teach Iowa, and then it becomes official. And then even if you have a tweak later, you want to add something, we can always add it. But at least it's out there and we're getting applications sooner rather than later. So
If you go with the January 3rd close or January 2nd closing, that's 5 weekends if we get it done by this weekend.
I-
You want to go one more?
I'd rather go to the 9th if you can.
Everybody good
I
with
don't
that?
see any reason why we can't.
I would think the 9th would be better,
Yeah.
just because of Christmas break. It
Absolutely.
allows people a little bit more time in there, and takes away less time from family. But that's my personal,
But that, as long as that doesn't shorten up no, that still would give us a week, the next week to go over.
Yeah.
That should.
Yeah, if we said the 9th, and this is when I'm gonna prompt you to get phones out and everything, but talk to your spouse at this point, perhaps. But let's just literally start looking at district calendar and calendars and start penciling out some dates here. And then you'll see those dates on everything going forward, so everybody knows. So as we process this, if we run the application period, say from Friday, December 3rd through January 9th, then we need about a week to finish reference calls, get things pulled together for you, and then come back and present candidates. That candidate presentation meeting is usually about 2 hours, depending on how many candidates. Because we're doing that, we're selecting semifinalists, we're writing screening questions, and we're also trying to finish the formal interview schedule for, 3 weeks, a month down the road.
And is
So
that full board or board committee?
that's really up to you.
Okay.
I would say most of the time it's the full board that wants to review the candidates. So I'm gonna tell you, my calendar's getting pretty darn full in January, but we're gonna try to be here when it works for the board.
Are you thinking the end of that week or the end of the next week?
Probably the next.
17th.
We have time, yeah.
So I have a question. At one point in time, we were talking like maybe we would weed it down to about 10.
Yeah.
And then go down to 3 or so.
Mhm.
So this board review candidate pool, what is that?
Yeah, and let me pause for a minute, maybe share that, because let me talk process and then we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring that up. So this is kind of what we recommend. Through the 6 weeks of the application pool or whatever, you would get through one person, which would potentially be Greg or board president usually, you're gonna get every Sunday night or Monday morning, every applicant that applied that week. So you're gonna see them all. You're gonna see resume, cover letter, references they submit when they hit submit on their application. So you would see that weekly, every week, as the candidates come in through that 6-week period. And then once the application period closes on January 9th, roughly the next day, you're gonna get an Excel spreadsheet with all the candidates listed. It's gonna have a narrative response about why is the Burlington superintendent position a good fit for you? We want you to see their candid response to that. Any social media disclosures and any other disclosures, like if they ever had an OWI or if they ever not been rehired. So we're sending you that information as the second phase of information about every candidate. You've seen them once, now you're seeing more of the story. Then behind the scenes, what we're doing and what we need a week to do is pull off other references that weren't necessarily theirs, but people that were calling on them, and then the state licensure checks. So then what we're gonna bring you in that 2-hour meeting is even more information about every candidate you've seen twice now. So most people will come with a stack of paper of their top candidates, and we'll come and say, here's the Paul Harvey, here's more on each candidate, and then we'll walk you through a process that looks like this. We'll bring a summary on each candidate. So if there's 25 that apply, you're gonna see all 25 again, but we will list them in order of how we both believe they will fit what you want at Burlington, as objective as we can be. Now, you don't have to go with our top 6 or our top 8. You can go with whichever ones you feel, but we're gonna try to summarize and objectify it by saying, here's how we feel they fit, top down. And so you can see in yellow here, you as a board decide, kind of majority rules on this. We want to move this person forward or we don't, or we need some more information. But we're going to summarize their application, their licensure, and in gray there, notice on this candidate, they had 2 dings or two negatives we want to bring to your attention. We're just very transparent about, consider this, we had a separation agreement in this one. This candidate wasn't familiar with Iowa finance. You can decide if it's a game changer or not, but we're just telling you everything that we think you need to consider. So we would walk you through that in that 2-hour process.
And that's a closed session. And the reason for that, of course, and again, if anybody's listening, whenever this time goes public, but it needs to be closed, otherwise you will lose candidates because they do not want their name out there until they discover if they're going to be a finalist and stuff. You will lose candidates, hence it's not a transparency issue. It's actually adding integrity to the process. Once it gets to be the finalist stage, then everybody and their mother will know who the finalists are, just as they should.
Out of that meeting, then you say 6 is the goal?
From 25, we normally it's 8 or less.
Okay.
And I don't say it has to be 5 or 6 because there's usually a natural cutoff. And sometimes the board will banter around 6, 7. We say err on the side of a half hour because you will know. You spend a half hour, you will know if it's somebody you're excited about or not.
Because that's the initial interviews. If you're following along, that initial interviews are 30-minute on Zoom. And so that's hence 4 hours if you have 8 interviews and work backwards.
Yeah. So the pre-screening is that closed session, taking 25, reviewing them all, getting it down to 6 to 8. Then it's the Zoom interviews, 30 minutes. We're here to facilitate. We've already helped you write the questions. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. So then you're taking those 6 or 8, spending 30 minutes with you. We walk you through kind of a scoring process to discuss. And then you're narrowing it down to the folks that you want to bring back as finalists. We strongly recommend 3 finalists with an alternate. Now, sometimes we'll have boards that say, oh, we want 2 with an alternate, or we want 4, no alternate. We have schedules for all of that, but the sweet spot for a lot of reasons is 3 finalists with an alternate. And I'll show you why here. It makes for you can do interviews in one day with 3 finalists and cater to spouses and all that. It's very efficient. We'll get into some schedules later tonight as well. Thank you, Deborah, for bringing that up. But that's kind of the overview of paper to get more personal to Zoom, and those are live to get more personal. But the board's not bringing people in they're not pretty excited about, because now you've met them 3 times. So let me go back now, and the question at hand is, if it's open through January 9th, we're looking at the week of probably January 17th to come and spend 2 hours with you and talk about candidates in closed session.
Thursday the 20th is about all you have.
Can't do it.
Can't do that.
No, I got,
You got something every other night that week.
I could do Tuesday the 18th that week, or the 17th.
Friday to the other one. Tuesday the 18th.
Or we can look at the next week and do Tuesday the 25th. Just throwing some out here that work.
The 18th works fine for me.
Okay, I'll make it work, yeah. What time?
You tell us.
How long will that one?
Usually about 2 hours.
2 hours.
6?
Probably 6 on the 18th.
6 o'clock. Sweet.
Okay, and that'll be a closed session. I'll remind you of that later. Okay, and if you give us, we don't need quite a week, but if we, a little time there to look at the next week, really the next 2 weeks for those screening interviews. So depending on how many candidates you have, 30 minutes apiece. If it's 8, that's 4 hours. That gets to be a long night. But I will tell you, it's better than multiple nights. Otherwise, you're going back saying, what did that candidate say 3 nights ago? And so if I need to bring Red Bull or something like that to keep you going that night, I'll do it. But it's important, I think, to compare them all that night. We can build in some breaks and things like that. So looking probably at the week of January 24th or January 31st for those.
So the 18th, January 18th is the pre-screening?
That would be the presentation, yep.
We'll present all the candidates, the rest of the information that you haven't got yet.
Are Tuesdays good for you guys by chance?
That 25th isn't for me.
What about February 1st?
Either or for me.
First is fine for me, but
I'm good.
February 1st works for
Okay,
me.
6 o'clock again, or can we go a little earlier?
5:30?
Up to you guys who work, I mean,
I'm off by,
Flexible schedule here.
I'm off. I can be here as early as 4:45.
I can do 5 o'clock now.
yeah, so 5 probably
5.
for that one.
Yeah, Scott, you're okay with that too? Yeah.
Nancy, that work?
I'm assuming Christie's okay with this?
Christy, all this
Yep.
is
Yep, sounds perfect.
And then, and I want you to check the district calendar for this too. So February 1st, and I have now 5 o'clock then. So that's the screening interviews, and then that's the bringing forward finalists for the next, and we'll look at some schedules here. And that's more of a full day, 3 finalists in the district. So we'll want to make sure we don't have any major conflicts with a board meeting that night, a short board meeting that night.
That was the first.
That, the first year we just booked, and now we're looking for the next one.
For the formal interviews.
The first is
Does it
the
matter?
initial Zoom interviews.
Yeah.
Correct.
Does it matter the day of the week? Usually,
much.
okay.
Up to you guys, really. Sometimes districts will say we have a PD day that day, more teachers can participate because we don't have to get as many subs, if that's possible. Otherwise, we try to, put teachers and stuff in the afternoons, you don't have to do full day subs and things like that, but
That 18th is a PD day. February 18th.
I'm gonna be on vacation from the 19th through the 23rd. I was probably gonna travel on the 18th, but,
18th is not good for me either.
Okay.
So
sorry,
no, you're fine.
it's been planned for a long time.
At the holiday weekend, so there's going to be a lot leaving early that Friday. So we may need to go earlier in the week then.
What about Tuesday, the 15th?
Fine.
Works for me. You're more likely to have sports, basketball, and things like that on.
Wednesday, as far as sports would go, Wednesday would be
Wednesday
the
would be
best
better,
day.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Wednesday the night,
Wednesday, the 16th. I think.
16th, we're on. Okay.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
talking
If
about?
we're doing the meeting the 1st, is it
How much time, yeah.
1 week to get them scheduled to come here is a little tight, isn't it? Or do they, I don't know.
No, it's plenty tight, yeah.
Okay.
It's tight, it's doable, but
So if we had the 16th, that would be, and so what happens if we get these great candidates and somebody says, well, I just can't come here? Then is
Well-
it their problem or?
They will normally, 99 times out of 100, they're going to accommodate this because we're going to tell them soon, here's the hiring timeline.
Yeah.
And they're going to block, right, so if they really want to be a candidate. Now, we've had it where, not very often, but we've had where we've had to move it or bring somebody back. We've had one where they actually Zoomed from out of state, but we were still able to do it on the same day. So,
we're at Wednesday, 2/16 for formals.
And this would be an all-day thing?
let's take a look at that. Let me show you some sample schedules.
Afternoon usually.
Okay.
And evening.
These are some of our most popular schedules. I can make a schedule work however you want it. Time, participants, that type of stuff. This one's probably our most popular. You can see on this one, there's an hour and 15 built in for every session. It starts with a community and district tour, which is usually outgoing person and or others. And then notice it says mixed interview team. I want to talk to you more about them because I know that's not the norm. But we strongly encourage you to utilize these if possible. Instead of having a teacher group, a principal group, community group, we actually have you pick those people out separate, get feedback on the interview questions they want to ask separate, but then mix them for the actual interview. And I'll tell you why. We actually did this by default once, and we're like, holy smokes, that worked really good. We've done it that way for 3 years now. Notice how efficient that schedule is for 3 candidates. We can have 50, 60 people involved just fine and make that work in one day. Number 2, good candidates don't lie. I don't believe that, but they do tailor answers to what teachers want to hear, and what administrators want to hear, and what the community might want to hear. You can't do that in a mixed interview team. So we got to coach participants, your finalists, to say, now this is a mixed interview team. Just answer honestly. And then at the end, probably the best part for you is that when we're debriefing with those interview teams after they provide feedback to you, somebody will inevitably say, that answer they gave about whatever, I just didn't like that. And somebody else will say, well, I really saw that was a strength. And we go, well, the board's going to have some tough decisions tonight, and not one of the people around the table is leaving thinking they better go with our person.
I think the other thing just to emphasize too is that everyone will fill out a Google form giving you feedback on your desired characteristics on each of the candidates. And we don't do any debriefing with the mixed interview teams until everybody's individually entered their input. And then which he's got up there. And then what you will, as a board, will receive is all of the comments and then the data, the scale of 1 to 10, I think we use, isn't it, on those things. It'll be broken out by support staff. It'll be broken out by teachers, administrators, whatever the different groups are that are part of your mixed team. So you'll have an insight on what each of those groups saw during the day during those interviews, and then you get to weigh how important you think that is, et cetera, but that's how the data piece of this works.
But no group is leaving thinking, I hope they better go with our person, right? Because they're not together to do that. They're all providing individual feedback. And this is the form we kind of pull together at the end of the day. So even though they're mixed, you'll see what the teachers collectively say, what the administrators collectively say. You'll have that data to know. And when everybody agrees, including the board, you got to slam dunk. They might have a new superintendent in 2.5 hours. Or present the data, and I'll show you why. That's when all the stars align. It's beautiful.
So you said there is no large group debrief of all of the 50 or 60 people?
Nope. Okay. We do it by interview team. So once because on a schedule like this, they're done at different times, right? So this first mixed group is done. So Kevin might be sitting in, and that's the other thing. We sit in on all those and facilitate the day. So it'll stay on schedule, no illegal questions, make sure candidates are comfortable, all that. But he'll debrief then with interview team 1 once they all provide feedback. And I'll probably be in with interview team 2, and then when they're done, I'll debrief with them. So that if you at the end of the day say, I wonder why, teachers' scores were down for this and everybody else rated this candidate high, and I can say, well, I can tell you their answer to this question in interview group 2, our group just didn't feel good about it, and that's probably why the teacher scored them low. Because it usually comes down to a question or 2. So we do a debrief after they all individually sit in the court. Now notice on this schedule, and I'll show you some other ones, the board, if you want to sit in and don't have a quorum, you could sit in other interviews as a board member. We're still going to bring you all the feedback from it anyway. But notice you come in at 2:45 or say 2:30 that day. We prep a little bit, and then you're there from 2:45 until the board meeting at 6:45. So it's not a full day commitment from you, but you're going to get the feedback from the full day. And that night we'll present the data, and you can decide if it's a slam dunk or if you need to sleep on it.
Is there any, I know with other superintendents or city manager, there's a community forum where people are just invited for open forum and community can come by and just chat on their own.
Yeah.
Anything included for that?
We've done that before. Matter of fact, this one I pulled up. We did a district and community tour, and I think this one had Q&A with central office. Not everybody was in the interview, so they just did an informal kind of meet and greet with that. And then as part of the community tour on this one, they did I think it was a meet and greet at a coffee shop or something as part of the tour. Now, we can make a schedule, do whatever you want. I will tell you, that's often something brought up. It's, unless Burlington's totally different, would bet you're disappointed at how many people actually come to that.
Mhm.
But if you want to build it in, so you have people can meet and greet, we can certainly build that in. Yeah.
If that's an optic that is important, then absolutely we can do that.
I don't think it is if we get the right people on the interview committee,
And we'll talk.
so.
And we'll talk about that process. Let's just talk about that now, okay?
Yeah.
We will give you some guidance on what would the split be. You should maybe look at on each team having 4 teachers and 3 of the. I mean, we'll give you that kind of, but we don't know your people, and so you want to be real purposeful about picking those people that serves on those committees to make sure that you're getting a representation from perhaps each of your elementary buildings, to make sure that you have a cross section, socioeconomic, that you have a cross, all of those factors should be accounted for, and that really is your gig. We help you with it, but we don't know your people. But it's so important because we ask them to give you legitimate input on the candidates that are invited in, and so that's really an important step. Let's just stop there. But we help you with that.
Right people.
That makes sense.
The community forum, right? You're not getting a lot of feedback from those people. So, we would challenge you and say, get the right people around the table and then get their feedback to help inform your decision. But if you need optics to get out there and present people, then we understand that too.
Well, and the other thing too, and Trent will get to this and as well, is that, we will put together a press release after each step of the process for you, and including the finalists with who they are, what they are, where they're at, a little bit of background and for you to send out to your internal people and then to your papers and whatever else you have for media. A bigger place, you can have more access to that kind of stuff. So anybody that doesn't know a lot about your finalists, just they weren't trying hard enough, truthfully, because what happens in this day and age. As soon as those 3 finalists are out, the world is going to blow up with everybody's going to be Googling and doing their thing. That's what we do, and so be it.
There won't be any surprises though. I will leave the board president and Greg one of these planning books that has every step, kind of what we need the board to be doing and what we're doing. And on page 21 in here, we give you some questions to help pick the right people that will help guide through. And then, as Kevin said, on those mixed teams, you don't have to think about the mixed part right now, but when you start getting down to it, we kind of give you a proration of, if it's a group of 20, how many teachers might you want on there, administrators, directors, coaches, community members, to comprise mixed interview team 1. So what districts usually do, and this can be homework today on, is if somebody hits you in the community or at the district and wants to be on the team, just put them on a list. Just keep a list. Somebody keep the list. Board members submit community names. Then at a future board meeting, we start to narrow those names down, and then all at the same time, invite them once we have your schedule narrowed down. So here's the schedule for, what was it, January or February 18th? 16th. Here's the schedule for the 16th. Can you be part of? You're formally invited to be part of the superintendent search process. Send the schedule out, and then we get an acceptance or not. But don't go out one by one asking people, because people feel slighted. And they'll be just wait and get one person keeping track of the list.
I think the other thing, when you start collecting your list and stuff, or there's nothing wrong with just putting it out that if you're interested, please let such and such know. But always make sure that you include the caveat at the end, is that by volunteering doesn't mean you're going to be selected, because we're going to have a fair representation on these committees. And thank you, but it isn't a guarantee just because you want to. You get to decide that. Now, you'll say it much nicer than I just said, but you know what I'm saying.
And is that, so at our last board meeting, it was stated that the school community relations committee would kind of help take some of that reign. So is that something that would be, we would be the main contact for that?
Yeah, and as board members have ideas of people to invite, let you guys kind of compile that list, and then when that comes up, you can come and lead that discussion at the work session meeting.
Yeah, that's a great plan. Normally would just keep a spreadsheet and
And I'm assuming something would go out to the staff and all that too, would would we just send something out if you're
Would we
interested in
send a blanket or
volunteering?
would we do targeted invitations?
I don't know that you want to target.
Okay.
I think we would
I think you need to
leave it open.
leave it open,
and
anybody who's
whoever-
interested.
Yep.
I would,
With the caveat, just like you said.
Yeah.
Knowing that,
Right, we
if
can only
50
have
staff
so
say
many.
yes, we're only
Right.
gonna have
Well,
8 or 9 that
here's a thought, you know, the diversity even within the elementary buildings is very spread.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say canvass the entirety of the staff. I would say go building by building. And because, you know, Blackhawks demographic is going to be much different than Sunnyside's, is going to be much different from North Hills, is going to be much different from Grimes. So the representation
And you want
can't necessarily be an umbrella, so to speak. It's got to be
Yes.
a little bit targeted to each building to say, okay, what's important at Grimes may not be the same thing that's important at Sunnyside. So,
But then that would be something that the committee
right,
would figure out when people.
But that's
Yes.
that's being purposeful really well. And, you know, in a district your size too, one of the things that, you know, you could, depending on your, how you want to approach this, but you could have each principal do this within his or her building, get people that are interested, give us a list of those, and then, you know, you could, however you want to do it. People are smarter than I am anyway.
I just think that all staff should have the opportunity if they're interested.
To at least
be
volunteer.
considered- To be considered.
Bring it back to you guys, then you can be
To be
very
considered,
intentional
that's
about
a good-
it.
And I would go a step beyond staff and say students. I think it's important for some students at especially the two, the middle school and the intermediate school and the high school. I think we should have
Yeah.
some of them.
I think students have no real idea what the job is. And I would worry they would end up just going with who they like. You know what I mean? Oh, they seem nicer. Well, that doesn't mean they're more qualified. I think there's a lot of people in the community at large that have no idea what the job really is. So that's my worry of opening the net too big is I don't want who's the most personable candidate. You know what I mean? That isn't necessarily what I you know, and I just picture, again, a daughter as a 6th grader, I just picture her going, well, that one was nicer. She's not, you know,
Historically, we have not, believe or
Yeah.
recall, had many or any students really involved with it. But for the reasons that Joel's probably said, but we've got huge organization groups and all
Mhm.
schools, we've got numerous booster clubs. We've got to make sure we see all of these people and reach out to them as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Most
Yeah.
places that include students, which most do, and you're talking 1 or 2 students maybe per mixed interview. It's not a large representation, but they're almost always juniors, seniors, nobody less than a sophomore for maturity reasons. And surprisingly, when you get to the end of the mixed interview, almost universally, when you ask the candidates, what questions do you have? They always will pick the students out and ask a question. Almost always. So you kick it around whatever you want to do. If you pick the students carefully, it's another piece of data.
But I would challenge you to probably stick with high school.
High school.
Yeah. Just because, again, we're getting their feedback formally too. And,
Sure.
if the group wants to do a round robin of interview questions, then they asking a question, there's just that maturity of doing it, feeling comfortable.
Understand.
We
Are we
gotta-
talking only teachers?
No,
Or are we
no,
talking?
all staff.
food
Support staff.
service
All
and
staff.
associates?
All
Bus,
staff.
transportation,
All right,
associates.
Just wanted to make sure.
Community,
Yeah.
business, I mean, there's a wide gamut of what do you want.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
community is gonna be big. I mean, we've got a lot of, different entities within the community that our school district works with that affects.
So are we talking 1 of 20 people?
You can have as many teams as you really want. I mean, we can build a schedule. Here's another one. We had 2 groups. You could add a 3rd group. I mean, you tell us how many people you want involved and we'll build the schedule. Don't make the schedule fit the people.
And the number of people in a group for face-to-face, it kind of depends on the space that you have available. I mean, if you have large enough spaces, we can have 20 to 25 on each of those teams if you want. Most of that's geography. Now, if we did those Zoom, then you can have whatever number you want. But again, there's something that's face to
No, you
face is
need,
better.
you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
absolutely.
So
not
you're saying you could
advocating
have
that.
1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, different, and then they would go around, so instead of having your teachers, whatever, it's gonna be mixed.
Right.
Exactly.
And then the board, I don't see so well, so then the board has
Has
one
your
at
own
the end, is
session.
that correct?
The board would be on their own, yeah, because you're gonna be meeting with that superintendent on your own, so, and you're gonna have different questions than the other groups.
Yeah.
So we always have the board meet with the candidate, on their own, with
What
the business
about
manager.
our ad team here, these 3 people?
Yeah,
We
well,
had
they,
talked about wanting them involved really a lot.
but you guys decide, you want them involved in the pre-screening review of candidates, then they can be involved in that. You want them involved in screening, they can be involved. You decide. In the end, it's the board's privilege and responsibility to hire the superintendent, so be clear on that.
Right.
But they can be as involved as you want, whether you want them in the board interview to hear more business management questions, perhaps, that's fine. Or it's really up to you. We've had it both ways, I would say. Yeah, it's really up to you. I would just tell you, the one thing is sometimes districts get held up on, well, this person has this title and, reports to the superintendent. That's important. Perhaps have them on the team. But I'm going to tell you, you're probably going to leave somebody off that's going to be offended in the end that really wanted to be part of it. And if you can look them in the eyes and say, we were very intentional about who we had in the interview teams and the feedback we got, you'll sleep okay. Right? Because we can't have everybody involved. So it's not so much about title or direct reports. It's truly about when we provide that feedback to you in the end to guide your hiring decision, I want you to say, we handpicked those people. We got to listen to what they say because they're going to be brutally honest with you.
And they're the ones that are stuck with the new superintendent.
Right.
Yeah, we did talk about the cabinet being involved from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So I would say they'd be involved in the pre-screening, the initial interviews and the formal interviews.
It's really up for you to decide what you want.
I mean, again, that's just how I personally see it, but they're the ones that work day in and day out with the superintendent. They're the ones that are gonna know the best. And if they all can't work together, then we have
Now, how does your
Issues.
district define cabinet then? Who decided?
These 3.
These 3.
these 3 that are in
Central
here.
office, support.
Yeah, so it's our HR
But
director,
it's not all the
Sure.
principals and all of that.
no, director of curriculum, and then our board secretary and CFO.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think that's a great plan unless, and I don't know this, I'm just going to say it, unless one of them is going to be a candidate, then I think it changes the demographics of that. So,
I'm not
We're
thinking they're.
None of them are candidates.
I don't know, I'm just asking because if you have
Unless
internal
they-
privilege
Down
on-
at the floor.
Unless they change their mind.
Well, do you anticipate
Change
any other
their-
internal candidates as principals?
As I understand, there's 3 people in the
I don't
district
know.
that have the superintendent certification.
Okay.
If they apply or not is up to them, but I do know of 3 people currently employed in the district that have that certification.
I just say that because I'm sensitive to it, and protecting them a little bit too. That if,
Sure.
if it's a board decision versus, because they got to work closely with those people too. So don't just play that out too in internal candidates.
Yeah,
None of those work in the central office here.
Okay.
Of those 3.
And while we're on the topic, my recommendation with any internal candidates is you just treat them the same as an external candidate. They apply the same, they screen the same, they
oh,
formal
absolutely.
interviews. And in any step, if they don't make the cut, then they can become part of the hiring process, if you want them to be. They don't have to be, but, that's a conversation you can have with them. Hey, we're gonna treat you like this, and if not, then we consider putting you on the formal interview team. Because this is gonna be their boss too. I like to have those conversations with candidates I know internally that are gonna apply right up front. Because they're gonna get questions as an employee, and they have questions as a candidate. So and I'm the one that gets the call in the end and say you didn't make the cut. So I want to make sure I'm very transparent about the process with them.
Stakeholder survey.
Yeah, one other thing I just want to let you know here, so I'm going to back up here. So you're getting candidates every week. Phase 2, you get the Excel sheet with a bunch of disclosures, more information. Come present. We got our dates penciled out now, and I'll send those to you in follow-up emails so everybody has them. You're going to be presented all the candidates again, top down, so we're going to try to objectively sort them for you a little bit. When we get down to the hiring, we're going to help you with negotiations, and you have to do the formal background
Hold up
check.
one second. So weekly, you said Greg or I will get an email The whole board has no reason to get those weekly.
We send them to you and then you forward them on, so we
Okay.
don't have an open
So we
meeting.
do want, everyone does want,
Yes.
get them. Okay, that's what I just wanted to.
You guys tell us who wants those weekly. Let me send you, Greg, and then you forward them on.
I can do that.
Okay. Just a reminder, again, those are confidential.
Yeah. Does everybody want all of those weekly, or do you want? Okay.
I
just wanted
do.
to make sure. I just wanted to make sure, yeah.
The other thing we tend to do is throw it in a Google folder, so that, hey, I missed this one, it's in the folder, you know. Yeah, so, you'll see them as they come in, and I'll tell you what'll happen. 2, 3, 2, 4, 12. That's the norm, but I will tell you every week, we got 6 that started their applications, we got 10 working on their applications. I'm working with them out behind the scenes, but some of your best candidates don't have their materials updated. They're getting their references, and that takes time. They're making sure their family's on board. So just don't get nervous if it's a slow trickle, because that's the norm. We talked about next interview teams. We talked about the feedback you get at the end from everybody's feedback. I did want to mention this. One thing that you will get on each finalist that they do as part of the application process is an advanced insights profile. This is an EEOC compliant, Lacey, you'll like that, inventory that assesses their DISC profile, which is their observable behaviors, their values, kind of below the surface, and then their dimensions like emotional intelligence, pragmatic thinking, systems judgment. It's a pretty thorough 72-page report. After the formal interviews with your 3 finalists, we will have this, and I will give you a summary of your 3 finalists' report. So if you have a gut feeling about, well, geez, they were really charismatic, are they really going to be like that as our superintendent every other day? We'll go back to this and say, let's look at their eye. Here's how they prefer interacting with people outside of a formal interview process. And you'll have that data on that science, you know, some of the science behind those people above and beyond the formal interview. Then whoever you hire, you'll get the full report, their summary pages, and then we go through this with your new hire and the business manager as well to try to help them understand each other better too. So this is a pretty thorough science that should give you some peace of mind about who you're going to get every other day outside of a formal interview setting too. Okay. Now you'll forget about that and I'll bring it back to you once we get down to finalists. But here's the other thing I want to tell you, and then we'll get into salary and benefits here in a little bit because I ran some numbers for you. We are very transparent. You won't see us publish salary and benefits for your candidates. We don't do it for teachers, so we make it a practice not to do it for superintendents either, unless you tell us differently. But as they become semi-finalists and finalists, we get a lot more transparent, share more information. Perhaps here's the current superintendent's contract, here's the salary range, here's the benefits package, because we want them to have that information as well. And if they become finalists, we kind of turn that around and we say, okay, you're coming to interview on the 16th. If you get the job offer, what do you need to accept the position? And we send that to them between semi-finalists once they're named a finalist. So I will have for you, we will have for you at the end of that night, when we won't show this to you until you're done, because I promise candidates it's not going to come down to the cheapest candidate. So that's how I get them to be honest. Okay?
Good idea. That makes sense.
Yeah, or they wouldn't be honest. Now, if they come in and they shoot for the moon and we're like, we know the board's not going to go for that, we just call them and say, hey, listen, if you're expecting 190 and you're at top is 180, we're going to have that conversation before they come. And the bottom of this note says, what's your family commitment? So before they come as a finalist, if their family commitment isn't a 9 or 10, we just pick the phone and say, hey, we see it's a 7. Can you help us understand it? My spouse is nervous. Okay, bring them with. My kids are more nervous about a school. Okay, how can we include them? So we've had where kids come and meet with the soccer coach, sit in classes, spouse meets with the chamber. Anything we need to do to make the whole family feel comfortable so that when you get your top person, we can land them. I've lost 4. 2 on money, we've taken that off the table. 2 on spouse. We try to take that off the table.
And yeah, and one of those was this, but they had visited the place
Yes.
multiple times and the spouse was on board until it got real and they got an offer and then that went south. So I mean, who saw that coming?
Nothing else we could have done.
Yeah.
But we want to get you your top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is why I'm pretty confident saying, 2 hours after those formal interviews, if the data is very clear and I know what they need and it's reasonable and the board's comfortable, we can have a verbal acceptance. because we've just been very transparent through the whole process. But it's part because we know what they're gonna want in the end. Family insurance, we're not gonna be guessing. We know, do they need family insurance or not? And that's, I'm saying all this without looking at your contract or knowing what your range is, so. And then when it's all said and done, we'll get to salary and benefits here. We're not done. You know, your new candidate's success is ours, quite honestly. If they're successful, 10 years down the road, when you're hiring a superintendent again, you'll call us back. If they're not, you probably won't. And we get that. So we do a lot to onboard them. We do a full day with them, going through your finances, your student achievement data, and the advanced insights profile. Business manager is invited to that as well. So we try to foster that relationship. That's before July 1, right? So they can update their entry plan, think about first year goals. Then we do check-ins, I'm going to say about every month, depending on their availability and some of that. Then we do a formal 6-month check-in with the board and the candidate as well. That way, if something's not going well or something's going great, we want to highlight.
You say back up a second, the check-in monthly, that's
Just informal.
after, but that's before they're here?
No,
That's after they're here? Okay.
yeah. We do give you guidance though. Last year we did a research paper on, just a white paper on successful transitions. We followed 5 successful transitions and said what went well in all of these. And I can tell you, I'll give you the paper. What goes well in the transition is where the business manager, board president, incoming and outgoing superintendent sit down and just figure out, just very transparent about everybody's role in the transition. Otherwise, somebody feels like their toes are getting stepped on and the board's asking the new superintendent to be involved. You see what I'm saying? So just being very transparent in a 15-minute phone call about how we're going to transition is the #1 thing. Number 2 is getting to the district and being visible and trying to meet with people and being seen. And number 3 was having an entry plan, having a strategic plan that you can give the board and say, here's my plan. Those were the 3 common factors in the most successful transitions we found. So we'll help you with that. At least we'll facilitate it.
And I would be shocked truthfully that any of your finalists don't present a entry plan as part of the process. That seems to be in vogue. Then it gets to be even more personalized once they get the job.
They're coming out of Drake, they better have an entry plan, right, Lisa? Right. Making sure we're on the same page. So I just want you to know, that's kind of our onboarding transition planning that we help with as well. You guys already approved us. I just want you to know what we budgeted was 8%, and then trips to the district. We'll do whatever it takes, but this is also a top price. So let's say we have a worst case scenario. Let's say we have a initial screening interview and it's a snowstorm and the board says, no, we got to stick to our schedule. Let's hold them. And we can't get down here for some odd reason. We do them by Zoom still. I would take $500 or $600 off because it's saving us time on the road, and I take that off the top bill. Whatever we bill you in the end will be less than that dollar amount depending on purposes and times. But that's just how I do it. It'll never be that more. Let's say you offer to a top candidate, and I'm going to say this now because it won't happen, and their wife, says, nope, we're living apart, and the candidate says, I just can't, or whatever, and you say, I'm not comfortable with number 2 and number 3, and God forbid we start the process over, or we get an interim and do it next year. I'm worst case scenario here. If you, again, we do it next year for same cost, no extra cost. So if you put your trust in us, then you're stuck with us for the duration until you're happy. Okay?
Well said.
Yep. But it's only happened once that we've had to go back and do it for free, but just asked them in the end to sign off that we donated our time and services.
And if you were to ask that district, they were thrilled with how it all ended up, not without a little pain along the way. All good.
Okay. So are you prepared? Did we warm you up enough to talk salary and benefits? Okay. I don't need a dollar amount tonight. What I need is ranges and to know if that's stuff you're willing to negotiate or talk about or not. Because when we call candidates, they're going to be humbled we call. They're going to say, why do you think I'm a good fit? It's usually question 1. I want to be able to respond to that. Number 2, they're going to say, what's the package? I'm not going to spend your money, but I need to know kind of your range. So let me give you a little bit of data here. Average superintendent in the state is at 259, 251. Average.
Is it?
Okay.
It's 19.
Actually, that's a year old. I need to get the new one. It's still in the 250. I think it might be 258. It's right around that, in the 250s. I ran your 10 schools larger, 10 schools smaller, and your average salary with that is 203,437, and that's off IESB.
You said statewide average?
Yeah, 150.
150.
Yeah, I'm sorry, did I say?
It's 250 now.
Yeah,
That's
so-
what we're all like.
I know, I was like, wait a minute.
I was updating my resume.
Now how many internal candidates are interested?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna pull up the SAI. Grabbed the wrong one. 159, and your similar school sizes though is 203. Just real quick. Greg, do you have any, not to put you on the spot, do you know any other ranges or where Pat is currently at?
The last I would have was whatever IASB had.
Okay,
So,
I think we're looking at the same data there then.
Yep.
Based on some of the other searches that we got going, I'm just looking through this list a little bit here too. Can I ask where Pat's currently at? Okay, sorry.
IASB data also, so.
You can kind of see it here with experience too. So, you know, the guidance I give you is if you have a superintendent, you're probably going to get experience in your pool. You're probably going to have a superintendent that's experienced, is my guess, and that's what you're going to want. Unless they're an assistant sup and haven't had the official superintendent title or a deputy superintendent from a larger district or something like that. But if you look over here, maybe 0, 1, 2, 3 years of experience here. For example, Ames was at 209 with 2 years. Bettendorf, you know, first year 202. Looks like 2 years at 231 College Community. Newton was, we hired Newton there at 175. So the range I try to come up with you is if you have somebody that doesn't have true blue superintendent experience, what's the comparisons on that? That should probably be the bottom number. And if you have somebody come in with 15 plus years of experience and you're trying to attract top experience, what's the top number that you're willing to pay and you can share with your community in good faith? And that should be your range, whether it's $20,000 or $30,000. I think you're probably going to be around 190 to 210 when I look at these. But
Right, we, initially came in 15, he was hired at 185. Grand, you know, salaries have gone up then. He had previous superintendent experience. He's currently at 199, 670. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is wrong, like for Pat, because it says that he only had 6 years total experience. He was a superintendent before, correct? That's what I thought.
I think those ranges are, I mean, for me,
Yeah,
that's the ballpark.
I was looking at a 190 to 210, but I'll just say up front, I'm not interested in somebody that doesn't have anything more than 5 years. I mean, that's me. But if
Say that one more
they've
time.
not got more than 5 years, 5 years or more of a superintendent's experience, I'm not interested in somebody who's brand new. Personally,
Depends. If you take an assistant superintendent at a Des Moines or a large school district,
okay.
that's, you know what I mean? Like, there's a difference.
But-
Superintendent experience at an assistant at a large district could be just as qualified as someone that's been superintendent / high school principal at a district of 800 students.
Got a point.
You know, so I don't want to limit.
One of the things we do when we give you the-
Administrative experience, I guess.
That may be,
at that level.
I would
It's-
probably
yeah.
lean towards that too.
Yeah.
But, well, I don't want to limit anything
No,
for Titus yet, but that's.
what I hear you saying is central office though, for sure.
Yes.
And that's how we
Districts.
tend to count it when we tell you the pool of 20 is this X. It is, we include the assistant, associate, deputy, whatever, the central office people in that category.
Yeah.
Good point.
And I really think your candidate pool is going to be strong enough that you're going to be able to be pretty choosy in that. But yeah, I would temper you not to, you know, throw them out just because of title, because especially during COVID, I will tell you, I think some of the folks in second in command got a lot of superintendent experiences that they didn't necessarily want to have, but they were prepped a little different.
Yeah.
So, and again, we have some, I just got an email today, I won't tell you what district, of a deputy superintendent in large metro. I think he'll be interested, and I think he's a darn good candidate, so. And I think you'll have more like that. Yeah. You can be choosy. I just want to get the widest pool possible for you, and then we can be choosy for you.
Sure. I had 191 to 208 as my range when I answered questions. So
Can you live with 190 to 210 as just the
Yeah.
general range?
we're around the same ballpark
It's-
there.
it's-
So, you know,
Say, that's pretty darn close. That's impressive, actually.
Greg, you comfortable with that range?
As a rule, are most superintendent packages benefits
Are we, great, yes? are
pretty
we-
standard across the state?
We're seeing more gaps,
Or is it-
especially in insurance. We're seeing more.
Annuities and so forth, car allowance, if there's that, phone allowance, I mean, are those things fairly standard or?
Relocation is fairly standard. Most districts will do a relocation up to $5,000 within the boundaries of the school district, and that's a supplemental.
Reimbursable expense.
Yeah,
I mean,
only
actual
expenses.
expense.
Cell phone, I would say, is 80% of the times included, but some folks don't want it paid. There's pros and cons to that. The one I see very different now that's a game changer is insurance. I don't know what your insurance package is, but we see a lot of bigger districts getting away from insurance and just supplementing it with salary.
Okay. Now, this is what, Greg, you sent me that contract. It said 90% family insurance, single dental, correct?
And I'll just review that
Why
with
don't,
you.
yeah, do that.
Yeah, we have, basically two different plans, a $500 and $1,000 deductible plan. If they choose that, the lower deductible, a $500 plan, we do pay 90% of single and 84% for family. That's all. We don't have, employee spouse, it's just single or family, so
And how much for a family? No.
84%. Now, if they choose the $1,000 plan, the district's covering 96% of single and 90% of family. So
And I'm assuming you're still comfortable with that, since that's the package. So that's a big deal, but that'll be an asset to that.
So
I don't have the contract in front of me. Is there any sort of retirement pension benefit, tax sheltered annuity in it?
not currently.
Okay. I would tell you, if you're gonna do that, that's something I keep in my back pocket.
Just a regular, no addition for the executive.
Yeah.
Every district employee has the option of participating in the 403B.
And life insurance, wasn't there a,
Yeah, life insurance, it gets, group term life, 250,000, so. Along with long-term disability, et cetera.
the standard, yeah.
Right, doesn't Ty get the 403B monthly? He doesn't like we do? Okay.
and then dental, do we get, and dental insurance too?
Single?
Yeah, it's gonna be the same,
With the 90%.
Yeah.
Cell phone stipend,
we have one base, and I'd have to look it up, we currently pay whatever, because the district won't provide cell phones.
it's provided. That's fine. Memberships and dues, I'm assuming are paid. I skipped over here, term. Are you comfortable with at least a 2-year contract? I say that, 1 will scare people off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't do more than a 3. 2 is kind of the standard. They're probationary unless they're an internal. They're probationary for 3 years by code.
Regardless of experience.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the chapter 20 changes.
So it doesn't matter really if it's 2 or 3, if they're gonna be probational, right?
Not so much, but you don't have to decide that tonight as long as you're comfortable with the 2. I'll say 2, and then if you went to 3, it'd just be a perk.
I'm okay with two or three.
2 is
I'm
fine.
okay with 3.
I would say 2 is fine, get the candidate, and if we offer 3, that's a discussion
This will be it.
for
Right.
them, but.
As long as you're not at 1, that's the big
Yeah,
issue.
no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I'm not in favor of 1 at all.
And the other big question they ask us about is relocation. That's not a contract thing. Normally, it's a supplemental one-time stipend. I like to put it within 6 months, within the boundaries of the district, as a caveat to that. Is that something you've done in the past, or no?
What did we do for Pat?
I don't know that we have, I'm not 100% sure.
Do you remember Darvin?
I thought I thought it was a requirement to live within the district, yes, but I don't remember if we gave them
Any kind of
any
thing.
kind of, it wasn't coming from far away, so, I don't recall that specifically.
Yeah, maybe it was kind of a moot point because it was just
Yeah,
local.
right. I don't necessarily object to it.
Yeah, I'd be fine with 5,000.
I was hired twice, and one time it was up to 3,500, and the other time it was up to 5,000.
Okay. I paid him $1,300 in 2015.
1,300.
1,300.
Actual expenses.
And he already had a truck.
Well, we're talking about this now. We don't have to get a dollar amount. I just don't want to tell a candidate, hey, you're willing to do relocation if they're coming from Missouri.
Right.
You know, because once we get down to finalists, we will know.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
And to me, I guess it would matter on where they're coming from. I mean, if they're coming from, Waterloo down to us, they're not gonna need more than 1,500. But if they're coming from New York to us, they're gonna need a little bit more. I mean, I would think there would be a range in that.
Can we negotiate that?
Sure.
Just say that, yes, we would do something, but we'll negotiate depending on.
For now, we just put
Is that
down that
okay?
you're open to relocation. That's all we need at this
As long as I
point.
know you're open
Yeah.
to it, I just don't want to offer it
Do
at
you
this
need a
time.
cap for it though?
Not right now.
Okay.
I just won't say a dollar amount. And the only thing I would say is with this, you don't have to do a range because they got to submit receipts. So you put the cap on it, let's say up to 35 or 5,000, and they actually have to turn in receipts for that.
Okay.
Well, the other thing too is that,
Right, Greg?
yeah, especially maybe in smaller districts, but I'm guessing it would hold true here too, is, you can't legally require that they live within your district. This is a way to incentivize them to do that, which you all know.
Let me reiterate that to make sure I have it down correctly. Salary range 190 to 210. Might settle at 191, right?
Right.
208.
We're too late.
208.
We'll try.
207,992.
Two or 3-year contract. The insurance depends on the deductible, but it's roughly 90% paid family insurance with the 500 deductible plan and single dental
90 single and 84 family.
and 84
Or
family
96 and 90, right?
and 96 and 90. Okay. No TSA, but if there's an optional 403B plan. Paid memberships and provided cell phone. And relocation would be negotiable with the successful candidate. Any other perks in the contract that will help me market for you?
And if you'd like, I can email you this current contract if you just want to see what it looks like.
That'd be great.
Do you normally work or get information from the chamber? For Burlington's been named, top 10 places, cheapest, highest dollar. Your dollar buys you more here than others communities our size.
Let's go there right now. What I handed you was actually it's the colored one that's a job posting. It was on top of your folder. I'm gonna pop it up here because I think we did scour some websites there and I want to go back and look at this, but this should highlight your district and community. So we just put together a draft for you. And I want to talk through that now.
Just, I don't know if this is standard or not, this, he gets, 4 weeks vacation right up front.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Pretty standard.
So what you have in front of you, I don't know, mine's different color right now, but this is what we could find off your website and some of the community, and then we link to some things too. So to your point, Darrell, I had looked at this for a couple days, so I wanted to pull it up. But these are, we got your vision, mission in there. We want to make sure we get your correct logo in here. So I'll get the hiring timeline updated. I already have the application link and all this stuff in here. So that's kind of the general information. And then the rest of this, we want to highlight your district and community, those things that will sell. So I don't think we have that in here right now, but we need some more of that information in here. Now, we did link to a lot of your community pages, but if we can make that more prominent, this is the first blush of potential candidates.
Burlington in January or February exactly? It's Iowa in winter, right? So the trees aren't blooming on Snake Alley.
The Greater Burlington Partnership is just greaterburlington.com.
And they have that one on here, the Visit Us.
The Visit Us.
They have greater.
Oh, there it is.
Visit
Yep.
Us, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
But if they were to reach out like to Della, I'm sure all of that and all the stuff that I was talking about with the
That's the chamber.
micropolitan.
Yeah, Bell is the CEO of the chamber.
One of the top micropolitan communities in the country.
Would she be willing for her name to be included in this document where they could just email her or contact her?
Yeah.
Call her and get some information.
We can set you up.
Yeah, she's asked to be part of the interview committee even already, so.
I mean, why not just put it there? That's an awesome source.
You got it down, yep, Ella Schmidt, chamber.
Something with the arts here too. Nothing.
I was gonna say,
Nothing
yeah,
with the arts.
nothing with the arts.
Downtown partners, I don't know, our downtown's growing and evolving and recplex, I mean, there's just lots of.
Yeah.
I guess the
Some of that they have to
Parks
go
is
and
on
find on
there,
their
yeah.
own. It's more trying to think of what's gonna grab their attention enough to click the links. You know, instead of, trying to figure out what they want beforehand.
Yeah.
ice skating and cocoa on the river in February.
You just got, I mean, we want this, we're trying to do the legwork, but I mean, honestly, this is what we can find on websites. So if you have other information we don't have, just send it to us, tell us what you want it, and we'll make it yours. We're just trying to do the legwork.
There's that,
There's stuff in there that-
we have that welcome magazine or whatever that we're talking about.
The Greater Burlington Partnership does the Explore Community Guide.
Is that what it's called?
Mhm. And it's the very, when you go to the Greater Burlington Partnership website, it's the first thing that comes up is Explore the Community
Okay.
Guide.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a link directly to that, but that would cover
All this other stuff.
everything else.
Did we have that URL on the list or not?
The URL is not on the list. Let me see if I can get it.
What's it called again? I'll go find it, explore.
So if you just go to greaterburlington.com, the website, it should pop right up towards the top of the page, the Explore Community Guide. There's a picture of people in canoes.
That's a good picture.
Yeah.
One of the other buildings that we want to have highlighted on here is Course Early Childhood Center,
Yeah.
for the preschool and the daycare.
It is on the
It's
back.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. It wasn't
Right,
listed.
something
All
about
right,
it.
it wasn't listed in the buildings for enrollment, but it should for the, especially for the preschool. That's an enrollment.
So they've got
So
five, and
to
then
the
that's-
Yeah, I
left
would like to see
hand,
Course just
Nope.
listed as a, as an
right
actual
under where it
building.
says Burlington, West Burlington, view, click view online,
Good job, Karen.
and that should be the URL for that community guide.
I remember writing something, but we'll
Yep.
make sure it's in the list.
It's on there, just not as a separate, yeah, it just says the Course Early Childhood Center.
They have young children.
So
Well, that's a-
basically.
that-
somebody
no, that's a
has one
wonderful thing.
building,
That's a-
Yeah, if,
That's a
if you
setup
put it
art thing,
under
it is.
the Greater Burlington or at the very bottom, either one would be great.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
Put it
definitely.
right there. I mean,
Yeah, that community guide is touches on all the
That's
arts
what I
and
was thinking.
downtown and
Yeah.
the auditorium and things that we
Restaurants.
offer,
I'm back
restaurants.
with the old paper, but
Yes, yes.
Early Childhood Center, core, is that the right?
Of course.
You have it on here.
I have it.
It's
but
just
we
in the
wanna-
paragraph underneath.
We want to
They got
add
a
it to the
bullet
bullet
point.
They
points
want the
of the school
daycare center.
to
Awesome.
highlight it.
And you can leave it there. I would just list it as a building as well.
Yeah, we'll just add a bullet point.
Okay,
Yeah.
but yes, but Nancy, your point about the daycare.
Yeah.
Yeah, leaving that there.
Yeah, we just
No, no, but they
discussed
didn't
that.
talk about it yet.
Yeah, they do. Houses both 3 and 4 year preschools.
No, I'm
Oh,
talking
No.
about
with-
daycare.
yeah.
They also have
Preschool.
Daycare.
Yeah, there's nothing
For
about the
even younger
daycare.
children.
Right. And because that's a big thing. I mean, that was one of the reasons that we did that.
And if they're employees, they get a cut rate too, so.
support.
I told
I have that.
You got everything about the daycare?
Well, I was just trying to make sure I got it right, that childcare, that if you're an employee of the school district, there is a different rate.
Yes.
Mhm.
Discounted, I assume.
And Corey, the teachers are, what is it? They have, there's a certification for the teachers, right?
Yeah, they're certified.
I bet they
For the
are.
Yeah,
preschool,
I
they're
mean, it's
certified.
not just
Yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
It's
The 3 and 4 year, yeah, so
Three and four.
the 3 and 4, so it's 2 separate portions. There's a
Right.
3 and 4 year old preschool taught by Iowa licensed certified teachers. The early childhood center, which is the ones, twos, and then the wraparound portion for 3s and 4s are meet DHS qualifications for childcare staff. They're not certified teachers.
Right.
for that portion.
So what grades again are certified?
The 3 and
3 and
4 year
4
old
3 and 4 year old preschool. Which is different than a lot of the preschools, you know.
A lot of places don't have
Don't
a
have
3-year-old
certified.
preschool office through the school.
On the 4-year-old is free. I mean,
If you do the
That's
school
what it
or
is.
the state program.
4 years first day was voluntary. And then we
The 3-year-old
And it's in
expanded
cycle
it
when
to
it's
graduation
done.
rate.
So you kind of have.
That's awesome.
A couple lines that jumped out is further, the district is currently conducting a facility study. Is that the right word, or should we say we're planning a major construction
$1
project?
million renovation.
Yeah, to me, a study says, we're looking into it, and then maybe if that comes back, we'll try to get a bond passed. No, we passed the money. We have the money, we're breaking, I want it to just sound more definite instead of, well, we're studying it and we'll see. Like,
We've got a $40 million high school renovation plan.
yeah, or,
You know.
so something that sounds more definitive than just
Just a
saying
study.
a study. Study to me sounds like,
I might say something like they're, because by the time they're hired, we'll be implementing the facilities master plan at the high school.
Nice.
$40 million master.
You get that?
yeah.
I think the dollar is impressive, but that's
That's
just me.
big.
I agree.
The other one, and I don't know exactly where it would go, but, the somehow in there, a diverse student population.
Yeah.
Our district has very different demographics than a lot of the state. And, just wanting that, it may just be 1 or 2 words somewhere in there, but I wanted that included, somewhere.
Do you just want a general statement about?
Yeah, we don't need to get detailed. They'll look into all of that, but I do, I just know with Pat, I hate speaking for him when he's not here, but that, some of that, the mission of serving a diverse school was somewhat what drove him to, the challenge of that drove him to want to do the job.
Right. And maybe this last paragraph would be where it would.
Yeah, I don't know what there, or even just approximately 3,500 diverse students. I don't know where, I just, somewhere in there where it makes sense.
Where it says beyond serving and supporting our diverse population of students.
Yeah.
Just add
I
those words in there.
just that,
Well, I think it's students and families too.
Mhm.
I think it's, I like to include the families in the community. And it leads me, Joel, to that. I know we're not getting into specifics of what we're looking for in an application, but yeah, we've got, I don't want people that, they're gonna go to the website and they're gonna see it's, we're 70% free and reduced or whatever the number is, and that they're gonna be scared. I don't want them to be scared of that. I want you to look a little deeper and we're looking for somebody who can embrace the diversity of all of our students. Because we have state qualifiers on all levels, and we have individuals who are struggling as well. And we want to make sure somebody who's going to grasp all of that.
No, that's a great point.
the only other one, and then I'll let other guys agree to, an experience, to lead an experienced, I don't know, an experienced administration team.
Administrative team.
Administrative team.
Just as another line, it doesn't need to be a whole paragraph, but just, we're looking for a superintendent to lead an experienced administration team, or something like that.
Great line.
Because they're solid.
Well, but
They
there's a
are.
different candidate than,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come in and bring all of my own people
Yeah,
in
and that's not what we're looking for.
versus I just can come in and steer a successful ship.
Gotcha.
experienced administrative team.
Yeah, look, we're looking for someone to lead an experienced administration team. However,
Yeah,
Right.
I got you. I'm tracking.
Yep.
It's good. Good stuff.
Really good.
The only other thing that I see on the back, we touch a little bit on vibe, but I think that should be a bullet point because we're at James Madison Middle School is where vibe is held, and that's K through 12.
That's your cooperative effort with some other districts.
That's our
You know,
virtual
right.
learning program.
Are we the only one in the state
But-
doing that, or?
We're not the only one in the state, but we're the only one in Southeast Iowa that has that, but it's a whole nother building. I mean, it's a building principal, it's staffed
Whole
just
nother
like one of our
staff, right.
buildings.
put it on as a bullet after like the high school.
So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
because it's grades K
paragraph
through
is
12.
approval.
And then we can talk about what it records.
Yeah, then it could be elaborated a little more like it is. I just,
That's unique.
But
You
I
wanna
mean,
keep
It's very
that a little
unique.
bit.
And I think we should have-
And
I
it's-
will tell you,
It's not gonna show
Middletown
up
is
as a
actually Middletown, it's misspelled.
Oh,
I don't
thank
want-
you. I knew there was a misspelling
I
somewhere.
don't want you to
Really?
have somebody look at it, and
Two
they go,
words.
oh, it's misspelled.
Where's the middle part?
And-
Can't trust this.
MIDDLE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I circled it some, I guess I know this.
Oh,
is-
no, it's all one word.
It's one word.
It's all
Yeah.
all
one.
one-
Oh, I was looking at theirs and not mine, but yeah, I caught that
is
too.
it two words on the other one?
MIDDEL instead of LE.
Yeah, but I was thinking on the other one, it was like, there was a space.
What else you got? This is great.
Oh, jeez, sorry. Mr. Mason, didn't mean to throw that at you.
Your website is a lot better than many, but
It just got an overhaul.
sometimes we go into these
So
and beat
it's-
us up, there's like, guys,
I got something.
your website isn't very
Well,
good here.
How much is, was Savannah gonna be involved in any of this as far as? Are we, okay.
We're gonna run this by her too. She'll help us get this.
And Savannah will work closely with the committee, the school relations committee.
Okay. There's
That will be
a little polish to be had, I'm sure that you can add.
Okay, anything else here?
Sweet.
Now, if you wake up in a cold sweat tonight and you think, we gotta add this, or we're gonna get 5 candidates if we put this in here, minus the subliminal message, just to send it to me and we'll get her at it.
We have a state-of-the-art football stadium. I don't know if that's something we want to put in, and I mean, it was,
Baseball stadium is legendary.
and the purple and gray foundation. I don't know if that's.
I don't know how
something-
much of that we need
See, I don't know.
on
I don't
this,
know. I don't know.
on
Those
for
make some
recruiting
great
or
pictures
just.
though.
It would make
Well,
some great
you know,
pictures,
For pictures, yeah, I don't know if we want to, if that's gonna be the,
yeah. I just throw stuff
yeah,
out.
no, I thought of that too. And I
Make sure you
thought, of
hit that on the tour.
How big a
Yes.
foundation do you have?
well, there's a educational foundation that just does scholarships. They
And things
control
for
probably
teachers.
3 million.
Yeah.
That does scholarships, teacher grants and other things.
Yeah, and meaning no disrespect, I haven't seen your football field, but if you go to a school your size, a lot of places have nice football fields.
Right.
Foundation will be something that, and they may have foundations too, but my point would be, I said that poorly.
Yeah,
I would
instead of,
draw the foundation.
instead of
out.
dollar amount, I would say, they're passing through over 100,000 to the district. Or close, around 100,000 a year is going either through scholarships or to teacher grants or other big ways to support the district.
Which is just a subtle point that every superintendent worth his or her grain of salt will see. That's outstanding community support. That's your message. Which, and I didn't mean to say anything bad about your football field.
Yeah, because I'm gonna push back.
I'll take a drive and look.
Let me put it this
We're gonna
way.
turn the lights on when you leave tonight.
So let me put it this way, I'm the play-by-play guy and you go anywhere else, it's a field and stands.
Yeah.
Gracewell sets itself apart. It's a bowl, so it's a true stadium feel. First, 1929 was the first lighted stadium west of the Mississippi.
Seriously?
Yeah.
A lot of history.
Okay, I take it all back.
Well, I mean, and I understand what Joel's saying too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to do this, but you're right.
Probably not all those details in this document.
You
but that's
also
pretty
know
cool
that
to highlight.
we're sitting next to the first in-ground pool west of the Mississippi. It's filled in now.
Oh, I
But
can
this
say, I remember
rectangle out
sliding
here,
there.
this concrete rectangle on this side of the building, first in-ground pool west of the Mississippi.
What's the history with this building? Not to get too far off track, but,
There's a newspaper clipping you
Yeah.
can read later.
okay.
Okay.
I just- there has
It
to
was
be-
owned by the Perkins
Perkins
family, which is this park right here in short, that was then gifted to the district.
BNSF Railroad is Burlington Northern Santa Fe. So the railroad history, Perkins owned.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the CEO of the railway.
What were the first, Burlington was the first, first capital of the Iowa Territory.
So,
Burlington's-
nothing that someone's gonna say, oh, I gotta move there.
Rich in
I gotta
history,
do this.
No,
I did it
that's
there.
very interesting.
It's interesting.
Stoked in history.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, a lot of cool, interesting facts.
But I mean,
just
but,
to throw.
but back to the football field, the reason we have that is because the community saw a need and they
Yes.
went with it. I guess that's kind of.
You could say the same thing about community field.
Absolutely.
When they, that money was raised. to
Rebuilt.
rebuild
Mhm.
So,
And renovate
that's a plus
community
for our-
field, the
our community.
recplex, the bubble, which is privately funded.
Yep.
Our Recplex is pretty amazing. Athletic complex.
It really sells things for community, especially young families.
It does. You can see it on the website if you check it out. It's dark. You can't see it.
And it'll be in
It's
that
pretty
book.
impressive.
Yeah.
So-
They'll have that stuff. But
Yeah.
Okay.
It is, but those are points that should definitely be made in conversation at one point or another.
the community tour will be where those,
Sure.
you know,
What you want.
yeah.
And truthfully, a good candidate's gonna be reaching and learning as much as humanly possible.
They're gonna start researching as soon as we post
We'll have to
dates.
figure that out when you're sometime.
Okay, what's it called again?
Chicken lips.
Well,
And
that's
Thursday, and
Oh.
Thursdays.
Chicken lips.
Lips and sturgeons for dinner.
Yes.
For dinner.
Chicken lips.
That might be late.
They're overrated.
Oh.
Oh.
And this is recorded. I just want that recorded.
And it's
You know.
recorded, I told you to be quiet, because they are outstanding.
It's just
I need
a
to strike that from the record.
I
giant
think
chicken lip that's dipped in.
It's a chicken breast.
Twice.
Chicken breast. It's
Strip.
like a buffalo sauce, but it's very unique. And just,
It's delicious.
Thinking I'm gonna
Well,
have to
we'll
make
hit
a
it
stop
our
on the
next
way
trip
home.
now.
yeah.
Yeah, now you're.
And then Joel's gonna want you to go to Grandpa's ice cream.
Well, yeah, they're,
I'm on board with
Well, and that was one thing that, Darwin and I were kind of having a side conversation, and that, there are so many, a lot of times, I hate to use the term cuisine, but I watch food shows, but I mean, that's a selling point for Burlington, in that there are a lot of homegrown ethnic places to take your family. We've got a Thai place, we've got a Chinese place, we've got
I
a
know what I
Japanese
speak
sushi
too.
place. And when you're looking at opportunities to sell the community, and I don't know, again, like Joel said, I don't know that it fits in this document, but,
Yeah.
To know that.
Yeah.
linking to that community guide, because I remember when I moved to town, that was something we poured over.
Mhm.
Because it has the section that highlights every restaurant. It has the section that highlights all the sports. Linking to that had every hotel when I needed a place, I think that's a good document that,
Memorial Auditorium.
that has all of those different things.
Yep.
Had every church listed in there.
And that's a print document, or is it?
It's a print document, it's a print magazine that they put in different hotels around the state and different places. There's also an electric one, I think you just had.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh, I was
he
gonna
just
say-
copied the,
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
That's
let's
a
just put
community
that there.
guide.
Yeah.
Wait, okay.
And last thought on this, not to mention that you're essentially equidistant from pretty major, but it's a 3.5 hour drive, but it's north of Chicago, south of St. Louis. 4.5,
Kansas
5
City.
hours to
We're in the
Kansas City,
middle
but
there.
you're kind of, you're right in the
Yeah.
middle of some pretty easy drives to get to some major cities, so.
I feel good, I feel good about that. We're gonna bounce that by Savannah for other feedback and stuff too, and then we'll have it ready to post. Okay, if you notice on our planning sheet there, at first I don't want to assume this, but do you want to get a stakeholder survey out for feedback from your community or district? You want survey feedback out or no?
yes.
Okay. So we'll set that timeline, and then I put together a draft for you. And you can chew this up, we can add stuff to it. This is kind of our, I don't want to say our blanket, because they're all a little bit different, but I want to show you what I drafted to this point.
I mean, is everybody okay with that?
Mike,
Oh, yeah.
how do we do this?
The survey,
Yeah, I
well,
mean, everybody or,
the more feedback normally, the better.
okay.
And then we'll take a look at it.
If you don't publicly post it, right,
Right.
if you're on social media, we email the staff.
Yep, email staff, student management system, newspaper, social media. The more feedback we get out, the better.
And then
And we're
basically
looking
you go
for-
to the survey and you fill it out.
And we're looking for what's the outcome from that.
Well, what we use, and I'll show you this, we get as much feedback as we can. And notice I just updated the timeline. So even though we're looking for feedback, we're also conveying, here's our plan. So that helps right from the get-go. So let me just show you what we tend to put in this, and then I'll show you a report that we produce in the end. The purpose in a nutshell is to get buy-in from the beginning and inform the board what people say they want. So if you have somebody really upset about mass or whatever, you name it, critical race, what's the hot topic of the day? That's not necessarily going to come out unless it becomes a theme. Then we're going to bring it back and say, okay, board, here are the strengths, here was concerns, here's the themes that came out of it.
And really, just jumping ahead, the real bottom line for this is to give the board an opportunity when you look at the desired qualifications for your next superintendent. Whether those are 5 things, 6 things, 7 things, and
Even for,
So that question, what are the strengths or points of pride for Burlington schools? Again, I'm not looking for somebody really happy or really mad. I'm looking for themes. Challenges or areas of improvement. Looking for themes. And this is where we start to flesh out the desired qualifications. And these are just linked to the standards. So instructional leadership, evaluate programs, community care and support for students. You can read, this is a fairly, there's about 18 on that list. We're looking for the top, whatever. And then the next one says personal. Collaborative leadership style, approachability. So notice when I put that list together, it was really together based on the priority, but I'm asking kind of separately. Again, back to the standards.
we kind of force them into prioritizing the top 3 for each group, even though there's 18 or 20, whatever the number is. And people will not like that, but that's okay. It forces them to process a little bit. What is their priorities?
And sometimes we'll have a district say, hey, put this down here. We want to know about if the community cares about cultural responsiveness or connecting with, low SES families. Okay. And then we see if that becomes a priority for you or not. The last 2 questions are, why do you think they're most important? And then what advice? And with the advice piece here, really tend to get pretty good advice. I just grab every comment, throw it in a Word doc, and I save it until April 25th or whenever your new candidate gets hired and they go to ISVIZ. And I can make sure they have it, we go over it, and then they get all that data back. And that's all. We can tweak this as you want to get feedback, but that's kind of the guts of the survey.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So everybody does this survey. Do we as board members ever meet with you one-on-one or anything like that to just verbalize what we're thinking? Or do we just fill out a survey and we're among the group?
I would say 2 things. We'd love to be able to compare the general feedback from the board if the board's willing to fill out the survey. And it's anonymous as well. So I do like you to fill it out so we can compare. Then we've done that 2 different ways. Love to have the conversation, but I'm always a little bit hesitant to do the one-on-ones. I'll do it. We're doing it with Waterloo right now. But the reason I'm hesitant, Deborah, is because if something comes out of our meeting that the rest of the board doesn't hear, that's okay. But now all of a sudden I'm taking that back to the rest of the board because, most things you want all the board to have all the same information. So my recommendation would be get the survey feedback, and then we come back, present it, and then we have a conversation about does it fit and what else? What else does the board
Or what
want
would
to have?
you add? What's prioritized? Ultimately, it's your choice. You have a lot of data that comes back in, but ultimately, as a board, you decide what those desired characteristics or qualifications are.
Now,
can
here-
we do a one-on-one meeting? We had kind of talked about it. As a board to do a one-on-one so that you kind of know where we personally are coming from.
Well, we talked about it, I don't know.
Yeah, and we'll do it. If you tell me you're one person on the board, so what you want may or may not go.
Right.
But if you're not
Right.
comfortable sharing that with the good group or the big group, then there's value to that. I just always err on the side of making sure that A, we're transparent, and B, the board hears the same information. So that's just my style. But if you say one-on-ones, then do
I
one-on-ones.
don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, I would say the same thing to all of you that I would say to you, probably.
Correct. I would have,
I don't know.
Yeah, we did one-on-one the last time, and I don't really know that I'm not sure if it added a lot. And I think as long as everybody knows what we're all talking about it, I don't have a problem with
But
not
I'll
doing
be
it.
honest, I don't see this adding a lot. No offense, guys, but I'm not
That's
a
fine.
big fan. I mean, looking through 18 and we got to pick our 3 favorite when they're all good, like it, I'm not gonna get that and go, well, this one's at 36% and this one's only at 15. Well, they're all pretty similar. You know, I'm not gonna think that is gonna move the needle a lot. For me at least. But I'm more on the talk it through and see, and then, oh, what I'm really saying is this, instead of which 3 I clicked in a rush. I mean, to me, I'm more that way, but that's not the process, and this is what we, you know.
Right, but to do whether it's Zoom or just each of us collectively spend 30 minutes doing a one-on-one interview with them, asking questions, and then pulling that together and then trying to get that out to us, I don't think is a lot different than if we did a survey. And I don't really know, from having done that before, I really don't know that it added a great deal to it. So if we want to do one-on-one, fine. I'm not going to go one way or the other. I'm just going to tell you I've been there and I don't necessarily know that it really gave a lot to it. At least, just the one-on-one with individual board members and then pulling it back.
So would we all be able to, or would we all be willing to do that survey? I guess I'm asking. To me, it won't do any good if just part of the board members do the survey. I think we all should do it if that's the route we want to go. I
don't know, honestly, Deborah, I don't know if the value really isn't, you get the final say. The value isn't the board necessarily doing the survey. The value is the board getting feedback, considering that feedback, and then having the conversation about what you, the hiring party, wants in the next superintendent once you've allowed people that feedback. Whether the board completes the survey or not, it's nice to be able to compare, but it's not a make or break.
It's not going to give you a better idea of where we're at.
Well, in one hand, it's probably some of the similar stuff. It's going to, force you to look at the standards and prioritize a little bit and us to compare to what the district and community members say. But we're still going to come back and have a conversation about what you want. I just like to have that conversation once you've got all that feedback and had people weigh in on it.
As a total board.
Yeah.
Because that's where the power is the total board, not as an individual. So,
And Joel, is that what you were really after, is having,
Yeah.
Back to us and you
having a conversation with everybody that's in the room now, let's talk this out. Is that what you're,
Yeah, I guess am much more, where my block is trying to set such firm parameters that we box ourselves into just this candidate instead of, well, let's see the candidates and let's see what strong things there are. And even though this wasn't a strength we had, it's such a strength that we want, I'm not as big of, well, nope, we all said we need someone who's a strong decision maker. So that has to be, that it's so subjective. It feels weird to say that's our number one. It just, again, in any of the interviews I've ever been in professionally, that I never went in, you went in kind of, well, this is what we're looking for, but it's where's the fit? And that's really subjective more than what a survey is. I also think a lot of the community has no idea what the job is. And so everyone there is going to want someone that's engaging and very outgoing because that's the only part of the job that they see.
That does usually service.
Yeah, it's going to be on there that, everybody wants Pat to reply to emails. That's the biggest complaint I've ever heard of. Well, there's more to it than just what their interaction with the superintendent was of replying to the email. So yeah. I take a lot of the community input with a grain of salt. But I'm not trying to put down the community input, but I had someone in the community ask me if someone who's never worked in a school district would be a good superintendent. Like, oh, what do you think about this person in the community? I'm like, you have no idea that this job requires these degrees. They just had no, oh, I guess I didn't know that. Oh, okay. Like it was, so that's right. I'm always thinking through that prism of what they're looking at for this is someone who's going to be popular. Well, that's not always what we want in a superintendent.
But I think that's why the survey goes out to all people, not just the community leaders or whoever
Yeah.
you're talking to, but to all people, because that way the data you get is everyone's perception of what would be a good superintendent. And then as a board, we would look at that and decide as a board what we feel is the most important. And I like the survey because I like being forced to choose. Those things are all important. That's why they're part of the standards that we have. But what do I think is the most important compared to what Annika thinks is the most important, what Deb thinks is the most important? I think that forced choice kind of thing is important when we talk about our values and what we value as individuals. So, that's why you don't just give it to certain people. That's why it's out there for anybody that wants to show what their perception is and what they feel. So then we have all that data to look at. We still, as a board, are going to figure out what we want as a board.
Can have that
So,
discussion, yeah,
yeah.
that's where I'm going to.
To me, it's the part that we're saying, we're going to hold you to these later of how to make a decision. No, we're going to make a decision based on our gut. This person looks good. Let's interview them. I really liked them. I liked what they said here. I liked how they answered this question, not, well, they're better at this quality no, we're going to go from everything else. So that's where I look at it is it's nice and it is good for the community to feel that they're a part of it, but I just don't know how
They
much.
are part of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't consider what they say as somebody who's answering every email. Maybe
Yeah.
we're saying, that's not that important to us as a board. But we take it into account anyway, because everyone is valuable and everybody's perception is valuable. So we need to look at all of it. And then as a board, we can decide what is most important as a total board. Now, maybe what's important to me isn't going to be, the board may say, no, Nancy, that's stupid. We're not going to go with that. But whatever, we're going to decide as a board, we're going to come to some kind of a consensus as a total board, because not any one of us has more power than anyone. So,
Might be a good time for my elevator speech.
Elevator speech.
20 seconds of whatever.
Hold on right here. Where are we going?
Joel, you made a comment that it tends to be, well, what does your gut tell you? Well, I've hired a lot of people and I've been involved on both sides of this process way too many times. Absolutely, your gut is important in this. And because any way you look at it, hiring is a subjective process. What we try to do is to bring as much objectivity to a subjective process as possible. And this is a piece of that. Ultimately, as a board, you got 6 or 7 things, you're going to be asked to evaluate candidates on those things. You get to weigh whether that fleshes with your gut or not. Just to be blunt, it is a subjective process, but we pride ourselves on giving you some objectivity within the parameters of subjectivity, if that makes sense. And I believe that.
Well, it's not always the desired qualifications. You might take those into account and weigh in other stuff. Well, let's say themes come out and your community says, a big deal is, I don't know, you probably know what some of your big deals in town are, but this comes up. So then all of a sudden for us, we're helping you write questions around, well, how are they going to address this?
Let's get into it.
Right, so we're providing objectivity into some of the challenges that came out of the survey. So, it's not the objectivity just on what do you want, we're going to hold you to that, but it goes into interview questions, how we try to get feedback from other people, just so when you're looking across from somebody, if they're the right candidate to move you forward, more than you just like them, right?
And you do know.
Yeah, you're going to know.
I would have to agree, though. I do think it's important that the board fills it out.
It would give you data if we all filled it out, that it would give you guys data. whatever.
We have some boards that do, and some boards that
I'd
say,
say
no,
it's
we
not
just
a
want to
deal
talk
breaker
about it,
one
so
way
it's
or
really
the
up
other,
to you
just
guys,
like-
but if somebody does again, then I would say we all try to do that, so we can
I mean,
have the
before
conversation.
before we were board members, we were parents, we were members of the community, we were anything but the 7 people sitting around this table. So, you know, we're 7 voices out of hopefully hundreds.
Right.
That will provide data, but I think our voice individually is just as important as anybody else's. I'm a parent, got 2 kids in the district. You're a parent, you've got 2 kids in, you're a parent, you know. Go around the table, we've all got vested interests in where this district goes. So for me to not answer the questions as a parent, taking off the board member hat, I think does a disservice to my family, to my kids, to my wife who's a teacher, you know, whatever angle you want to take. So I have no issue with filling it out independently and then discussing, but you know, putting my thoughts to answer those questions.
And you could technically take it as a parent.
Yeah.
And you could technically take it as a board member.
So I can vote twice?
You can.
Awesome.
That was a question, actually. How would
What about
multiple
community
people do it multiple times? Okay. 2 questions, and I don't know, I think that's a survey, but I think an important question that should be in here is, do you have children currently attending Burlington Community Schools?
Okay.
And I don't know if it's in there or not.
It is not, but I can
To
add.
me, that
That's a good
that
question.
gives, and they don't, you know, maybe they're not gonna be honest, but again, that's a question to ask. And then the second question would be, do you live within the boundaries of the school district?
I like the question, do you have a child currently
Yeah.
attending Burlington Community School District? Because there's some people that live in the district that have chosen not to send their kid here. They're still a community member. They should still feel free to fill out the survey, but it would be nice to know how many of them are
Not
filling
lives,
it out.
Attends.
Attends the district.
Problem is we have a lot that live here that don't attend this district.
They're open and rolled out.
The one thing is
Or private
public
school.
schools.
And do we want to say child/grandchild? And the reason I say that
How about
is
just
because
students?
there are a lot of grandparents that are.
Yes.
Students then covers it. That would imply a caregiver.
Okay, well, I thought Darvin said,
I changed
I
it.
misunderstood.
So don't you need to
Currently
ask
have
if they
this-
have
Do you
children?
currently have children attending
I
the district?
mean,
Or do you have a
There's
student
those
that
of us
attends,
that
it? You
don't.
change it to
You-
a student that attends the district. That
See, I
implies
can't
caregiver.
I see, I
Currently have children that
That, and
attend.
worded that.
all right, so
I-
I'll have to say no.
Student or children? I think it should be,
Children
So I
slash
think-
grandchild.
okay, I'll give
I'll
you
have
that
to
one.
say no, because no,
Student
she's not in
is the
school yet.
caregiver. Student implies you're the caregiver of a student.
Yeah.
So you'll
So
look at
students,
mine and
okay.
say, well, she doesn't have kids, so hers doesn't count.
Currently have a student that attends
Oh,
the
they can
district.
fill out the survey. We're just looking for a little, to me, I'm looking for just a little bit more information about who's filling out the survey.
I mean, it's.
Right, but
And you can do it a different way, just instead of a separate question, above there, you can just put parent
With,
of current
Of a
student,
Burlington
of
student.
current Burlington student. You know, because Nancy, you wouldn't check parent,
no,
you know what I mean? But,
no, they're a little old for that.
you want us to.
Oh,
does that
that
cover
might
it
cover
there?
it.
Parents slash-
Does that cover it there instead of a
My
separate
older
question?
I still don't know if Burlington student does it. I think it's a parent of student attending BCSD.
Of current BCSD student then.
Parent or guardian.
Because a
Parent of a
somebody
current
who's open enrolling
BCSD
is
student.
still a Burlington parent.
Guardian.
What's that?
Somebody who's open
No, a
enrolling. is
parent
sending
guardian
their
of a
kids-
current BCSD
Yeah,
student.
but as it says,
Yeah.
are you
No, I
a
would just do
Burlington parent? Well, that's a
BCSD.
little broad.
Yeah, parent slash guardian, because there's some that grandma or
There's a
aunt
lot
or
of
uncle
them, a lot.
is raising them.
A lot of grandparents.
Now, do we want then a
That-
parent? You get it?
I think.
No, if they're not a parent, if they're a parent of kids who go to another school, they're a community member.
They're a community member.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's a
That'll
clear,
that'll push them into that one.
parents of
Yeah.
kids of.
Yeah, no, that's a nice
Yeah.
distinction. That's really good.
Does that cover you,
Yeah,
Darvin?
yeah, no,
I think that's
I
a
was
great
just simply
addition.
looking for something to
Yeah.
signify this survey was completed by somebody who has
Vested
maybe a
interest.
more vested interest than some others.
Yep.
In the future of the district.
That's a good clarification. Yeah.
I like that.
What else? Well, let's go back. Do we want a survey? I mean, we're starting to work on the survey, so are we assuming we want a survey here or no? Otherwise, we're.
My
we're-
vote is yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine.
Consensus is
It's
yes.
fine, yeah.
Again, it's gonna come back to you. People are gonna have a voice. They're gonna see the timeline. You decide how to use the data, but we're gonna come back and have a discussion. Now, if we get to a point where you want one-on-ones, we're happy to do that. But again, I think we can get it done in a meeting. I would just tell you to get clear about what you want to share in that conversation after you see this. So if you have hot buttons, then let's bring them up and put them on the table.
And we would schedule just a separate work session to do this, correct?
And we can take on some of your, that's probably not gonna be a 4-hour meeting. So if you have a board meeting scheduled and you want to make it a work session afterwards to review the stakeholder survey and discuss board feedback, then we'll come and tag on when you're already here.
So we should probably get that scheduled tonight too, huh?
I would agree.
Well, how long is this, is
Yeah.
the surveys open, you say, until December 12th?
Well, I was just throwing that out there because that's, whatnot.
That's this
Yeah, we-
Friday is the
Third.
third.
And if you don't have a ton of, we can get this turned around pretty quickly.
Sunday.
Friday through the
We'll go further too. I just,
I mean, we could do that for January 10th, couldn't we? I mean, there's no rush to
because we're not
analyze that data. We're not using it until what did we say,
18.
15.
we're not using it until the 18th.
Of January, right?
So we would just add that to the end of the meeting on the 10th.
So
Or,
could this,
or before, is easier for your guys' schedule, waiting for us to finish our regular meeting or doing that before?
Okay.
could we do a 5:30
So,
or a 5?
That's something they're in person for, or is it?
What's that?
Are they in person for that, or was it?
Is that in person for you guys, or is that something you would just dial
we
in?
can do
and-
either, but we're just comparing
Yeah,
schedules
that's,
here.
go ahead.
I'm scheduled in the western side of the state that night, so I might be able to be via Zoom if it's before 6,
And what date are you talking?
January 10th.
I think it could be done via Zoom. I don't think it's something that has to be
I
done
think
in person.
As long as we've got good technology. So,
I'm fine on January 10th, either coming or doing it Zoom.
What about cabinet members? What do you,
I think a Zoom at 5 would probably be, I guess, maybe 5 work. I think you're gonna want more than half of it. One thing that often happens with those work sessions when we do them before a meeting is we run long because we don't give ourselves enough time. think
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
And I think this work session
Good
may
idea.
take some time,
it might,
I think.
but if we limit ourselves to 55 minutes with a 5-minute recess before 6 o'clock, is that gonna be enough time?
I don't know. I think this is important that we want to get it right. So I guess I wouldn't want to feel rushed, but.
The other thing I can do for you that will help is I'll get you the survey in advance and some of that stuff, so you have a lot of time to chew, and then I'll maybe give you some prompts to bring to that meeting about priorities.
That'll be
That
good.
would be
So then everybody shares out, based on a couple prompts, and you've seen the data, a couple weeks in advance.
Yeah.
I think that will help, and we're not wasting time presenting the data at that meeting.
I think that's great.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So we'd already have
That's a
it.
good idea.
The only discussion we have is
As you-
our questions.
And what you want to add to, once you've seen it, but you'll have,
What we want.
yeah, I'll usually, we're not meeting right away, I'll share the document with you, and then I'll do a little video overview of it. But you'll have it by, well, if it closes the 12th or 14th, I can have it to you by Christmas break for sure.
Very good.
I think that'll help your meeting, then you'll have an hour to discuss
So we're looking at the 10th of January, is that correct?
at 5 o'clock
At 5 o'clock.
via Zoom.
And Joel's bringing the lips.
And truthfully, if you'd prefer that I drive down, I willingly will do that if you like that better than Zoom too. I'm pretty flexible.
I'm okay with Zoom. I mean, if you feel better coming in person, I guess I'd leave
I'm
it.
fine.
As long as everything works.
The best thing about Zoom is you can shut off the camera and you won't have to look at me. Just saying.
No,
I'm gonna be in Western Iowa that night, but I'll participate for an hour via Zoom for my board meeting.
Works.
Speaking of that,
We'll set up the link.
do you want to get that survey out Thursday or Friday? What do you think? Is December 3rd through the 12th long enough? You want it longer?
I mean, if we're not talking about it until the 10th, we can leave it open a little longer.
I think so too, because it's
Another
a
week.
busy time right
The
now.
3rd through the 17th, and that gives it 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
And we'll want you to send out a couple of
Reminder,
pushes.
Savannah will handle that.
Is that okay?
we can work with her on that. We'll make it real easy.
When do we dismiss from for school?
Would the same idea apply to
What?
community members who might fill out the survey, that maybe even if you push it all back into Christmas break, they would have more time?
Yeah, but we do see if you push it once, people that want to fill it out will fill it out.
It's 3 questions, isn't it?
5.
5, okay.
It's
So
there
it's
is
not
a-
a long,
15 minutes.
Just throwing it out there.
No, we will if you want to.
No,
but
I just,
want a little time to crunch the data for you too, but it's not gonna hurt us if you go another week or two.
Okay, the 3rd through the 17th, Zoom meeting on January 10th at 5 p.m.
You know what else we can do, Scott, is let's push it to the 17th. If you don't feel like we honestly have the feedback you're expecting, we'll leave it open to push it again. Nothing says we can't leave it over another week or two, so.
Okay.
And Savannah's our contact person.
Yes, yes.
But I will give Savannah or whoever, like every 3 days, I'll give her a report and say, so she can see that, you know, we're not getting parent feedback, we're not getting student feedback, and then we can push it to that population.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting there.
7?
This is just a prompt. I'm at 5 here.
Sure.
This is just a prompt. We looked at contract and I think Greg sent it to me. What we don't want is to be down negotiating with your finalists briefly and you say, geez, we wanted to change that contract language for the last 5 years. So if there's contract language you want to review it before, and I'm gladly send you sample contracts or give you feedback, but I'm not an attorney. So it's just a prompt to update the contract if needed.
Any changes that currently have our council.
Look at. Let's see, board. This is kind of a rhetorical question, but you can catch us tonight before we leave if you want. If you have leaders in the field that you have heard about, that you saw at conference, that you see on social media, that you want us to recruit, we're not going to wait for you to tell us names, but tell us names because we want to make sure we reach out to them on behalf of the district directly. That goes for you guys too. And we'll ask your principals too, and cabinet for contacts as well. Okay. Is there any other posting outlets, marketing spots locally that you want to market this job besides the ones that we normally market to? As you know, the Des Moines Register used to kind of be one. It's not so much anymore. But this is where we publish too, maybe. Teach Iowa, which Lacey, I'll work with you on. Superintendent programs, that's through Handshake. National posting board, you can see the ones I post on. AASA Job Bulletin is the best national one, to be honest. SAI contacts, our website gets about 1,700 hits a week, so tracking there pretty well, and prior pools. Social media, added Instagram just recently, and then those personal phone calls and emails. So we feel like we got it covered, but especially if there's something local that you want us to get it in, we need to know that.
I think that looks good.
Comfortable with that?
Do we post, was it posted in the Hawkeye the last time?
no one's.
The Teach Iowa site, anybody in the state of Iowa knows that it's an education job. That's what any certified employee in the state of Iowa knows that's what he does.
Is there anything that, this is, you said nationally, but is there anything that takes us out to the Midwest? Minnesota, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, Illinois, Indiana.
Just Midwest?
Yeah.
I still think AASA is gonna be your best one because they can filter by Midwest or by state. We also go in and scrub names. Maybe scrub's not the right word. We look at people that have posted in the last 6 months and if they're willing to relocate and then qualifications and then try to be really intentional about, like for Waterloo, I just sent out 56. You might say, well, why not 156? Well, because these people very specifically are qualified and said they moved to the Midwest. So we try to go backwards and reach out to them even if they're not looking. But I think AESA we found is your best. A lot of your national candidates are going to either want to come to Iowa or have a tie. Not to say you won't get somebody from New York but I'm going to tell you quite often they have a reason to come to Iowa or some tie. or retiring and.
On to double dip.
Yeah, from one system to the next.
And we get some good ones. I mean, try to pluck somebody away from Missouri. Their retirement system's so good, they can retire at 54, 55, and they can still work 8 or 10 years and, you know, and be good. So, in Illinois, it's not too much different. So it's likely we'll get some of those candidates. Okay, what am I missing, Bob?
Not much. How you feeling about life?
Good.
We got a lot covered,
It's tedious to get through all these details.
Yeah.
but it does plant the seed for moving forward. I mean, some of the stuff we just know we can move forward and we can go to work for you.
I think it'll be interesting to see what the community has to say and students and parents. I really do. Looking forward to those answers. Yeah.
I just hope that people will take the time to participate.
Right. That's my fear. I mean,
Distinction that people will understand from what happened the last time to what's happening now. Because I hope that makes them feel more comfortable and more like coming forward. Lacey's nodding. You remember? Yeah, it you know, it was rushed. It was, there's no denying it. It was rushed. This is not.
Right.
So
Great timeline.
I hope that's a distinction that people will realize.
When you say rush to, I'm assuming compressed, but when was Pat hired? Was it May or June? Or
June.
was it June?
That's pushing.
We're done on July 6th, but I wouldn't
And the
recommend it.
search started in,
You got it good.
And we didn't get a good one.
Search probably started in March.
That's quick, you know, we have time. And, well, I'll try to get that for your sake too, at one of the first hiring announcements. I'll try to get some language in there about, you know, I don't know, I'll try to mention that for you.
Can someone, Greg, or you guys just send out a list of all of the dates we talked about, just to make sure we all have them?
You got calendar invites.
Tracy's already,
We'll do it.
I haven't checked that far.
they're already on my calendar.
I might too, but we'll do a follow-up, make sure everybody's on the same
Yeah.
page, because it's absolutely critical.
So my next steps are,
Thank you, Greg.
I'll get you the dates, the job posting I need to get to Savannah, and then the survey, work with Savannah as well. So those are our next three things. And as soon as we get the job posting finished, we'll get it posted on Teach Iowa and our marketing outlets here soon, and we'll get the survey out by Friday as well. Then the next thing you'll get from us is, starting Sunday after it's posted, you'll start to get those applicants confidentially every week until it closes. Just know we'll bring you more information in the end. You'll get a survey report before Christmas. Mel will come on the 10th or Zoom on the 10th and have that board discussion.
And Greg, those are all gonna come through you and then you'll forward those, so none of us on the committee need to worry. Okay,
And again, remember,
Thank you.
all of those are still considered to be confidential, just you folks.
correct.
And one of us, Greg, you or I, however you want to do it, let's set up a Google folder. So we'll send them to you and then we'll give you access to a Google folder in case, just so you have. You have our contact information. We mean this. If there's a question that comes up, call us, email us. We'll be working behind the scenes for you, but you're going to see the fruits of the labor throughout the process here. And just as we close, we'll field any final questions with thanks. I think we'll enjoy working with you. We'll work hard to make sure you get the right one in the end.
May I give you a business card?
Sure.
Please. Trent bought a lot of them.
No, I don't.
Come on, I stop people on the street and give them.
Pass them out at parades.
Everybody's passing.
So basically,
Take one,
you
two,
all will be
three,
here in
whatever.
person except for this,
The 10th.
the 10th. Otherwise, you'll be here first.
Now, one other thing I noticed that Kevin's gonna,
We're running out.
Oh, I got more. Somewhere around 1,000.
We'll need 4 more, those 2 and then,
Christie needs one too.
I'll take
The next
it.
one, yeah.
and yeah, Christy, actually, I can take a picture and send it to her.
We just put one here in her binder. Monica, we're giving her a folder.
Okay.
In her folder.
Okay.
Anything to add?
I hate to ask this, but we didn't set a snow date for February 16th. We should probably set a snow date just in case, unless you just want to run with it and see, but
Snow date is always a good idea.
But almost guarantees you don't need it until you don't have it. And then
well, when you brought that up, I thought,
We get ice, we don't get snow.
Could
No,
we
we-
do snow date / Zoom so that we have to do?
No, I want to meet her. I don't want our final interviews being by Zoom.
Nope.
Just push it back.
You gotta have the person here.
yeah, we could
So
do,
do we do the 23rd then? Snow date?
So,
No, you're gone.
I'm gone.
That's a Wednesday again, right?
what about the 17th, the next day?
And
I'm
when are
still
you
here.
back?
Pardon me?
When are you back?
Well, we fly out on the 23rd, but then I'll be in Kansas City and have to drive home from Kansas City. So the
that
20
That week is out.
So maybe the
Yeah.
24th. I'd have to double check the time.
Or the 17th.
The 17th is perfect.
But if it's bad weather on Wednesday, wouldn't it be bad weather on
Don't get it,
Thursday?
don't get it cleared though. I mean,
You would hope.
Usually
we don't- you know,
So much snow.
if it's that catastrophic, we'll just push it back a week or something, but if it's just impediment to drive and they get it, blown out. I mean,
But we
I
got,
could be here for sure on the 25th, which is a Friday.
what about the 17th first?
I can do the 17th.
This is very unlikely you're gonna have 2 snow dates and we can get, we've even had it where Decorah, they canceled school. We were there, candidates were there, we ran it. Anybody that came, we only had 1 or 2 people that didn't make it. And we ran it, had no school. Everybody was still involved, so I'm pretty comfortable if we went the 17th, that one of those 2 days would work, but
It's good to have one.
now that we've talked about it, it won't happen.
Sorry to put a wrench in things.
Bring your son back with you wherever you're going.
Yeah.
Other questions you have for us, or we will get out of your hair and work it.
Any other feedback before we close the meeting?
Thank you.
Thank you. all. Yeah.
Thank you. Very productive.
This is
Thank
an
you.
scary and exciting time.
Yeah, well said.
Just the right one in the end. We'll help you.
We will go ahead and close. Need a motion? Oh,
I move that we
I thought this
adjourn.
was
Second.
and we're adjourned. Thanks, Greg.
All in favor, leave.
Feels like I just want to be
Well, I
done.
just thought
Why do we gotta
we
have a
didn't need
motion
real
here?
motion. We still do? Okay.
Robert said so. Robert and his rules.
Well, then we know. Should have moved to approve the agenda or is it?
Here's the name. Trapper Keeper? Is it gonna be a Lisa Frank trapper?
Oh, we're done.
Everyone I can still.
Nice and bright.